Well, hello again, and thanks for joining me. When last we spoke, we talked about beginners, and I'm still aiming this at those of you that are kind of just starting out. We talked about places, people, and things. We're still working on the people part as far as things to photograph. And after we do the individuals, which we talked about on the previous video, I'd like to address the photography of groups a little bit right now, okay? A group is anything from 2 people to 200 people, okay? It can be large groups, it can be small. The main thing in a group is to make sure that you can see everybody's face well, okay? I'm going to start off with the big groups and show you how to do that. If you had an opportunity to photograph a large group, maybe an organization or a club or something like that, or even a classroom group if you're in a school, you want to line them up according to their height, okay? You have the line from the tallest person all the way down to the shortest person, and you line them up on one side. Then you take the tallest person and you put them in the middle of your group. Now this is assuming that you're using bleachers or something of that nature. In a few minutes I'll show you what to do in case the bleacher steps are not available. But when you're doing large groups, okay, as you'll see what I'm holding here, okay, the whole thing that I'm holding, you take the first person and you put them in the middle of the back row. You then take the next tallest person to one side and the next tallest person to the other side, as you can see by the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you keep doing this until the back row is filled up. Then you continue on with the next tallest in the middle of the next row. And so on and so on and so on until you have all the rows filled up and everybody is staggered a little bit so that people's heads are not blocking the people behind them, okay? So you make a little separation there so you can see them. Now, in case you don't have steps or bleachers to work with, let me show you how you can build with chairs. Here's an example of what to do if you don't have anything but maybe some chairs. You make rows of people by putting a chair for them to sit on. The next row would stand behind the chair that they're sitting on, and the third row would stand on a chair behind the second row. If you still need more people, you can sit people cross-legged on the floor in front of the first one on the chair, okay? This will give you a little bit of help on how to build a set to photograph groups, okay? Enough on that. The name of the game in photographing any people is make them look good, okay? So you always want to watch for expression. But before I get into that, let's talk about a little smaller group, okay? If you'll notice on this one, here's a family group of 4 people. You notice we kind of go for little triangles and diamond shapes, okay? Here again, nobody's blocking anybody else. You see all the faces. The family unit is tied together in a close, harmonious way, okay? So building groups is nothing more than making little diamonds and little triangles out of the people. And from this, you could build and build and build until you have a large group, okay? Put that aside. Just want to check my notes for a minute here. When you're doing a large group, sometimes it's best if you elevate yourself. That way you can get to see the people in the back row a little bit better. So I recommend standing on a chair, maybe a ladder if it's a very, very large group. If you're working outdoors with sunlight, be sure the group is lit evenly. You don't want one half of the group to be in the sunlight and the other half of the group to be in the shade. Either have the whole group set up in the shade or the whole group set up in the sun. Take several shots, okay? Because invariably somebody's going to blink or put 2 fingers up behind the head and fool around. So take several shots on a group. Don't be cheap with the exposures, okay? Make sure that you cover it. Okay. Watch for expression, okay? As you're doing a family group, the main and most important person in the group is the mother, okay? If the mother looks good, they'll buy the pictures. But you want to make sure that everybody looks good as far as that's concerned. So you try to talk to everybody and keep an eye out for everyone. Again, probably a use of a tripod is very, very important, especially on large groups. If you're working outdoors, even with any size group, Make sure your lighting is even. You don't have broken lighting. Broken lighting can happen outdoors when light is filtering through trees and all of a sudden you have speckled light on the person's face. You want to avoid that as much as possible. So either stay all in the shade or all in the sun and work that way with your group pictures. If you're doing a team where they have uniforms on, okay, try to position them in such a way as you can see the numbers and everything on them. If you'll bear with me a second, I want to show you a large photograph of a team that I photographed many years ago. This is a photograph I made in 1976 of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team. As you can see, it's important that you see everybody in the picture, and you see their numbers too, because that's very, very important. Here again, I was standing elevated. I was standing on top of a van, photographing downward a little bit so that we could see everybody in the picture, because I knew we were going to put their names on it later, as you can see below, and it's important that we can identify everybody, okay? So here again, you see how people's heads are spaced between other people. They're elevated in such a way that nobody's head is blocking the face of the person behind them. And this is an example of a very, very large group, a team picture, okay? Okay, keep in mind, when you're doing groups, everybody in the group is going to look for their own photograph when you're trying to pick the best one. So like I said, take several shots, and probably a good thing, if you're working indoors, okay, make sure you have enough light on them, all right? If you have just a flash on camera, then make sure it's in the center. If you're working with multiple lighting setups, if you're advanced to the point where you have studio lighting and everything, make sure that you have two lights, one on each side of the camera, and they're lighting up the group in an even manner, okay? So here again, a group is anything from 2 people to a large number of people. If you're doing a couple in the photograph, it's probably a good idea to have no 2 heads on exactly the same level, okay? You can either have the woman sitting and the man standing behind her a little bit off to the one side. So her top of her head is about equal to his eyes, okay? And so on. Or you can sit the gentleman and lean the woman on the man. But make sure one head is a little bit higher than the other. And make sure they're on the same plane so they'll both be in focus. Don't have one too far behind the other. This is a mistake that a lot of people make when doing, especially couples or smaller groups. Try to have them all on the same plane. When you line the people up, step off to the side and look at them to see if all their noses are pretty much the same distance from the camera, okay? That's kind of important so that everybody stays in focus. Especially if you're working indoors where you're going to have a lower light level, the aperture of the camera is going to open up more and you won't have as much depth of field. A depth of field, it means the amount of picture that's in focus beyond the point that you're focusing on. And we'll get into that at another session. Okay? For now, we're going to sign off on the groups. I hope this will help you a little bit. And we'll pick up the next video probably talking about things. We'll get into architectural and landscape and all. So for now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.